She didn't scream. She didn't move. She just stood there, breathing through shame that wasn't hers. The silver spoon clattered onto the dining table as 70 relatives went silent. Code smiled first. Then his hand moved. "Don't act shy now," he laughed. The fabric tore. In one violent motion, her pregnancy gown was ripped open at a family dinner meant to celebrate life, exposing her body, her scars, and her unborn child to a room full of powerful people who chose to look away. Her mother-in-law sipped her wine. Her cousins whispered. No one stood up. Odessa's hands trembled over her stomach, not from fear, but from a promise she made to her unborn child right there. "You'll never grow up like this," she whispered. That night, someone knocked on her bedroom door. A man she barely trusted. A man holding secrets that could burn an empire. And that's where her story truly began. Before we dive deeper, please, if you're listening to this right now, I want to prove my stepmom wrong. She said I can't even reach 1,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter. Subscribe to Jossy's Folklore, and let's keep breathing life into tales that refuse to die. Now, let's continue. The dinner was supposed to be simple. A long mahogany table, crystal glasses, soft music humming from hidden speakers. The kind of dinner where nothing bad was ever meant to happen, because money had a way of insulating pain. Odessa sat at the far end of the table, her swollen belly wrapped in a flowing ivory gown that had taken 3 fittings to perfect. The dress wasn't chosen for beauty. It was chosen for safety. Loose enough to hide the bruises that never quite faded. Soft enough not to press against ribs that still ached when she breathed too deeply. 70 people filled the room. Uncles with gold watches. Aunts with tight smiles. Cousins glued to their phones. Elders who spoke of honor but practiced silence. This was the Adami family, wealth stitched together with secrets. Code sat beside her, relaxed, amused, spinning his fork between his fingers like the night was a game. He wore navy blue, tailored so sharply it could cut. To everyone else, he was the perfect husband. Successful, polite, generous. Only Odessa knew how heavy his hand could be. She felt it before she saw it. The shift in the air. That familiar tension crawling up her spine. Code leaned closer, his voice low enough to sound intimate. "Why are you sitting like that?" he asked, smiling. She adjusted herself instinctively, one hand protecting her belly. "I'm fine," she whispered. That should have been the end of it. But Code hated endings he didn't control. "You've been acting strange all evening," he said louder now, enough for nearby relatives to glance over. "What are you hiding?" A few laughs trickled down the table. Someone cleared their throat. His mother didn't look up from her plate. Odessa felt her heart pound. She scanned the room, searching for one face, just one, that might step in. Her sister-in-law avoided her eyes. An uncle checked his phone. Silence wrapped itself around her tighter than fear. "What would you do?" the narrator asked softly, "if the people meant to protect you decided comfort mattered more than truth?" Code stood. The chair scraped against the floor. The sound echoed like a warning shot. "Stand up," he said. Her legs refused at first. Pregnancy made everything slower. He grabbed her wrist, not hard enough to leave marks, just enough to remind her who owned the moment. She rose. "You see," Code said, addressing the table, "my wife likes attention, always playing the victim." A ripple of uncomfortable laughter followed, not because it was funny, but because no one wanted to be next. Then his hand reached for her gown. The tear was loud, violent, final. Fabric split open from collar to waist. Gasps filled the room as her belly was exposed, along with the faint purple bruises lining her ribs. Time froze. Odessa didn't scream. She looked down first at her stomach, at the life kicking gently inside her, unaware of the cruelty surrounding it. Then she looked up. Faces stared back at her. Some shocked, some curious, some disgustingly entertained. No one stood. Code laughed. "See? Nothing to hide." Her mother-in-law finally spoke. "Sit down, both of you. You're embarrassing us. Embarrassing us." That was when something inside Odessa broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but cleanly. Like a chain snapping after years of tension. She covered herself with shaking hands and sat down slowly. Her appetite was gone. Her voice was gone, but her mind was suddenly very awake. That night, back in their mansion, Code slept peacefully, the kind of sleep only the powerful enjoyed. Odessa lay awake. Every ache in her body told a story she had been trained not to tell. The first slap disguised as stress, the apologies wrapped in gifts, the isolation dressed up as protection, the warnings whispered with kisses. "You need me," he used to say. "No one will believe you." At midnight, the door creaked open. She flinched, instinctively pulling the blanket tighter. But it wasn't Code. It was Uncle Risaki. He was Code's uncle by marriage. Quiet, observant, the kind of man everyone underestimated because he spoke last, if at all. "You shouldn't be awake," he said gently. She stared at him, confused, afraid. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," he replied. Then he closed the door behind him. He sat across from her, his face heavy with something that looked like regret. "I saw everything tonight," he said, "and I've seen more than you think for years." Her breath caught. "Why didn't you stop him?" "Because stopping him tonight wouldn't have saved you tomorrow." Silence stretched between them. Then Risaki placed a flash drive on the bed. "I've been collecting evidence for 2 years," he said. "Bank transfers, bribes, fake charities, threats, videos he doesn't know were recorded." Odessa's hands trembled. "Why tell me this now?" she asked. "Because tonight," Risaki said, "he crossed the line even his money can't erase." He leaned closer. "You have 2 choices. You disappear, and I help you hide. Or you stay and burn the truth to the ground." Odessa looked down at her belly again. "Have you ever realized that your fear wasn't just about you anymore?" Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. Not from weakness, but from clarity. "I won't run," she said. Risaki nodded. "Then prepare to lose everything before you gain it back." When he left, the room felt different. Still dangerous, but alive. In the distance, Code snored. Odessa rested her hands over her unborn child and whispered the first honest prayer she'd spoken in years. "This ends with me." Morning came without mercy. Sunlight poured through the tall glass windows of the mansion, illuminating luxury that had never felt so cold. The room smelled of expensive perfume and last night's silence. Odessa woke with her body stiff, her mind already racing. For a brief moment, she hoped the dinner had been a nightmare. Then she remembered the tear, the laughter, the way no one stood up. Code was already gone. He always left early after nights like that. Business meetings, he called them. Disappearing was his favorite way of reminding her who controlled the world outside their walls. Odessa moved slowly, careful with her steps. Pregnancy made pain louder. Every bruise spoke when she bent to pick up the flash drive Risaki had left behind. It sat on the bedside table like a loaded weapon. She hid it inside the lining of her handbag, just as footsteps echoed in the hallway. The housekeeper knocked softly. "Madam, breakfast?" "I'll eat later," Odessa replied. The door closed. The house returned to its rehearsed calm. But Odessa wasn't calm anymore. By noon, the story had already started spreading. Carefully edited, of course. Family group chats buzzed with messages that framed the dinner as a misunderstanding. Some said Odessa had overreacted. Others whispered she was unstable. One aunt even sent a prayer emoji, followed by, "Marriage requires patience." What would you do if the world rewrote your pain in real time? Thought Saki had warned her. This was how power worked. Not by denying the truth, but by reshaping it until the victim questioned herself. That evening, Risaki returned. This time, they met in the garden, away from cameras. Roses bloomed in rows, manicured and obedient. Everything here survived by design. "You need to understand what you're up against," Risaki said, keeping his voice low. "Code isn't just cruel. He's protected." He handed her a burner phone. "Every call, every message from now on. Use this." Odessa nodded, absorbing each word like oxygen. Risaki explained the web slowly. Judges on payroll, police chiefs promoted through donations. Women before her, quiet settlements, sealed files, erased names. The Adami family didn't fight scandals. They buried them. "He's been laundering money through charity foundations," Risaki continued. "Children's hospitals, disaster relief, all fake. And when auditors get close, he paused, they disappear. Odessa's stomach tightened, not from fear, but from understanding. So what's the plan? She asked. Risaki studied her carefully. First, we document everything. Your injuries, your messages, his threats. Second, we make noise, the kind they can't mute. Media? She asked. Selective media, he corrected. The wrong journalist gets paid off. The right one gets threatened. We need someone with nothing to lose. That night, Code returned late. His mood was light, dangerous. You embarrassed me yesterday, he said casually, loosening his tie. Do that again, and you won't like how I respond. Odessa didn't flinch. I didn't embarrass you, she said quietly. You did. He laughed. You're pregnant, emotional. Don't ruin that child's future with your moods. She watched him walk away, feeling something shift inside her chest. The next weeks were a war fought in whispers. Medical reports were copied, text messages archived, hidden cameras installed. Risaki's evidence grew heavier. Contracts, recordings, transaction trails leading to shell companies overseas. But Code wasn't stupid. One morning, Odessa's lawyer called in a panic. The judge assigned to your case has been changed, he said. And there's a petition claiming you're mentally unfit to testify. Odessa closed her eyes. Here it was. Code wanted custody before the child was even born. That night, fabricated videos surfaced online. Edited clips painting Odessa as violent, unstable, abusive. The comments were brutal. She's playing victim. Money does this to women. Poor man. Have you ever watched lies spread faster than truth? Odessa almost broke that night. Almost. Until her burner phone rang. I'm Tund, a voice said. Code's brother. She froze. I don't have much time, he continued. But you need to know, Risaki isn't the only one who wants Code stopped. They met secretly days later. Tund looked nothing like his brother. No arrogance. No polish. Just exhaustion. I left the family because I couldn't stomach it, he said. But I kept copies. Insurance. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were internal emails. Confessions. Video proof of bribery. Evidence so solid it could collapse generations of power. Odessa's hand shook. Why help me? She asked. Because someone has to end this, Tund replied. And you're already standing in the fire. The courtroom battle that followed was vicious. Code's team arrived confident, smug. They played the videos, claimed concern, painted Odessa as fragile. Then Risaki stood. Then Tund testified. Then the evidence unfolded, methodical, undeniable. The room shifted. Judges leaned forward. Murmurs grew. Code's smile faded. For the first time, money hesitated. When the ruling came, it was sharp and public. Code lost custody. Criminal charges were filed. Investigations opened. But as he was led away, he leaned toward Odessa and whispered, "This isn't over." She believed him. Power doesn't die quietly. Yet as Odessa rested her hands over her belly that night, she felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Hope, earned, not gifted. The victory tasted strange. Cameras flashed outside the courthouse. Reporters shouted questions that sounded like praise but felt like traps. How does it feel to win? Do you forgive him? What's next for you now that you control the Adami assets? Odessa answered none of them. Inside the car, the silence pressed against her chest. Her hand rested on her belly as if grounding herself to something real. Justice had been served, yes, but justice didn't erase danger. It only changed its shape. Code was denied bail, but the Adami empire was still standing. 2 days later, the letter arrived. Not flowers, not threats, documents, stacks of them. Inheritance papers, emergency transfers, ownership records, assets she didn't recognize, companies she had never heard of, properties spread across cities she had never visited. Risaki stood beside her as she flipped through the pages, her face draining of color. They moved fast, he said quietly. When Code fell, the family needed a shield. A shield? She asked. You. The room felt smaller. The Adami legal team had done something brilliant and cruel. Through marriage clauses buried deep in contracts, Edessa had become the beneficiary of both the legitimate and illegitimate arms of the empire. Shell companies, laundry accounts, quietly acquired land. If the law decided those crimes belonged to the owner, they'll pin everything on you, Edessa whispered. Risaki nodded. If we're not careful. That night, fear returned. Not the sharp kind, but the heavy one. The kind that asked dangerous questions. Have you ever escaped one cage, only to realize another was being built around you? Tun called at dawn. They're panicking, he said. Elders are fighting. Records are being destroyed. If you take control without strategy, you become the fall guy. So what do I do? She asked. You transform it, Tun replied. Before it transforms you. Over the next months, Edessa worked like she had never worked before. Not as a victim, not as a wife, but as a woman who refused to let power decide her story again. With Risaki and Tund, she separated clean money from dirty. She cooperated fully with investigators, handed over evidence voluntarily, signed immunity agreements that protected her child. Some assets were seized. Others were spared because she turned them into something else. The Adami Foundation was born quietly, not a vanity project, not a cover. A legal entity dedicated to abuse survivors, legal aid, safe housing, and trauma recovery. Every document was transparent. Every transaction audited. Every board member independent. The same family name that once silenced women now funded their voices. The backlash was brutal. Anonymous threats. Court appeals. Articles calling her manipulative. A gold-digging liar. A traitor. She read none of them. The day her child was born, the hospital room was calm. Sunlight filtered through white curtains. Risaki waited outside. Tun sent a single message. You did it. As she held her baby for the first time, Edessa felt the weight finally lift. No applause. No revenge. Just peace. Months later, she testified one last time, not against code, but for others like her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply told the truth. And in doing so, she broke a cycle older than money itself. Some empires fall in flames. Others are rewritten. And sometimes, the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's transformation. Edessa's story didn't end with applause or headlines. It ended quietly, the way real healing often does. There were still nights she woke up sweating. Still moments when loud laughter made her flinch. Still days when trust felt like a foreign language. But every morning, she reminded herself of one truth she had earned the hard way. Survival is not weakness. It is preparation. She learned that silence can look like peace, but it slowly steals your soul. That love without respect is just another cage. And that sometimes God doesn't remove you from the fire immediately. Sometimes He teaches you how to walk through it without burning. Edessa didn't become powerful because she married into wealth. She became powerful the moment she chose truth over fear. Her child would grow up knowing that dignity matters. That no amount of money gives someone the right to humiliate, control, or break another human being. And that even when the world looks the other way, integrity still keeps records. If you're listening to this right now and you feel trapped in a relationship, in fear, in silence, remember this: your voice still works. Your story still matters. And no one gets to decide your worth for you. Pain may introduce you to power, but healing teaches you how to use it wisely. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button for more emotional tales from Jossy's Folklore. And even if it didn't, come on, subscribe anyway. We'll win you over next time. Drop a comment, like the video, and let's keep the stories alive. Thanks for watching.